soars, I will fly high above the storm. Yeah, yeah. I will fly like an eagle that soars. I will fly high above the storm. Yeah. Ooh. Like an eagle that soars, I will not die, but I'll rise above the storms of life. I will fly high, yeah, above the storms of life. Ooh. I will fly high, yeah, oh, above the storms of life.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Darren O'Neill Show. I am your host again, Darren O'Neill. We have been really having some great dialogue and conversation in regarding to the mind. For the past couple of weeks, really almost a month, God has been dealing with me concerning the mind. And so everywhere that I have gone, I have been, really focusing on that nature. Now, here on this show, we are here, of course, to encourage, empower, and help evolve you to the next level of your life. This young lady that I'm getting ready to bring on as one of the guests here to speak, I know for sure she has a prolific revelation, man, in regards to the mind. Not only that, but I was privileged to do a panel with her just a couple of weeks ago. And I understood just by her nature and her caliber, some people you can just feel that they have something on their life to be able to help to empower people. So I wanted to bring her on today. So with that being said and done, I'm not going to hold her up. Miss Taylor Banks, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. I don't know if I should say reverend, pastor, prophet, evangelist. I don't know which one.
Sometimes I don't know which one. I just, it just depending on the day, depends who's gonna show up.
Day, right?
Depending on the day, so we, you just never know. But Taylor's always works for me.
Taylor always worked for you.
Yeah, I don't need all that. Y'all gonna know who I am by what I say anyway. So I don't even use those titles. And people are like, hey, bro, I'm like, yeah, okay. Y'all really want to,
y'all want to go that route.
Y'all really want to go there. I just, I used to be like, no, but now I'm like, bless you.
Oh my goodness. So Taylor Banks, man, who is Taylor Banks? I mean, you do it all. I've seen your Instagrams. I've stalked your Facebook. And I even Taylor Bank you in YouTube, like, because I want to know who these people are that I'm bringing onto the show. But you do so much. You do so much. Like, how do you handle all of this?
Listen, God. Because I think like I'm sure and many people who are like us understand that when you're called to be many different things and to wear many different hats, you're constantly just trying to navigate. And as you mature, you understand it's about understanding the moment, right? And each moment needs a certain hat, and depending on the moment, depends on what hat you put on. And so that's the one that means the most, right? Like in that moment, you prioritize what is needed. So so I'm Taylor. I am a licensed therapist. I'm a therapeutic coach. I'm a mentor. I'm an author. I am an ordained elder. I serve in my church in a million capacities. So we're not even gonna go there. I specifically though, I really help women in media, ministry and marketplace confront their trauma, weaponize their stories, and then execute their God-given purpose. And so I just believe that we cannot be effective in who God has called us to be without going back and closing some doors and closing some things that are impacting our today, whether we realize it or not. And so I love that I get to work as a therapist, as a therapeutic coach with predominantly women, but I do have some senior pastors in particular. That's another, see all the hats? That's another, I work with a lot of women in media ministry marketplace, but also I'm really called to senior leaders, right? Pastors that don't have a safe place to land. And unfortunately, the church have not realized that it's important for them to have a safe place to land, to be able to attend to their mind and their emotions. And so, yeah, that's, I mean, I always say I got to work on this introduction thing because there's so much, but that's me. That's just a little bit.
I thought I did a lot. You do a lot. But see, your work that you do is more mental. How do you function and not be drained mentally? Like, do you have a spot where
Yeah.
you go? Do you have a hobby? What are some things that you do to kind of take your
Yeah.
away
So
from
one of the things that I learned really early on is how to create emotional boundaries.
it?
And so when I'm at work, I'm at work. But when I'm done with the client, I'm done with the client. And so what that allows me to do is to be able to go in and out of spaces, right? It allows me to be in a session, to be present, but then to come out of that and being in my personal life and not to carry what happened in the session into my personal life. And that's where a lot of therapists really struggle. And people who work with people, right? When you provide services, the struggle is there are no lines, right? There are no boundaries. And so your life and your work all go in and out of each other all day. And you find yourself on an emotional roller coaster. But what I really have learned to do is to leave work to work. And it does not mean that I don't care about my clients when I'm in my personal life, but I also understand that if I don't care about me more, I won't be effective in caring about them.
I'm getting out my notebook because this is going to be.
So it is super important, okay, whether you are whether you serve in if you're a senior leader and a CEO, a business owner, you need to have boundaries. Okay. You need to have boundaries because you will only be, again, as effective for your clients or your business or your congregation as you are for yourself. Right? If you're not caring for yourself, how are you supposed to care for others? Because really how you care for others is a reflection of how much you care about yourself. Right? And so you think you're doing great by saying yes to everybody else and showing up for everybody else. But soon you're going to see that you're going to start dropping the ball. So you're going to see that even your care level for them, whether it's people or business, is going to decrease because you can only put into that what you're putting into yourself. So I say no a lot. If I need to say no, I just go ahead and use that powerful word. It's a powerful word, y'all. It's really very, very powerful.
It's very powerful. And the thing is, it's one of the challenges and one of the hardest things to say to people like, I would say like me, because you give off to people and you just want to be that servant to just lend that helping hand. But I feel like
is it being a servant though? Because what I've found is that we like to be needed.
Yeah.
And so every time somebody comes and presents me with an opportunity to be needed, it is not only giving them what they need, but it's also feeding something inside of me. Now, the question is, what is it feeding? Because if I don't know what it's feeding, then I could be engaging in routine behavior and it's really not about the other person, it's really about me, which means then you're operating from a place of pride. Which then cancels out how much of a servant or how, it being really servitude, right? Because if you need to keep filling up the bank of, I need to be needed. I like that when I feel needed, I feel like that I matter, right? My identity becomes rooted then in how much I'm needed, which means that in order for me to feel like my identity is being, intact, I have to keep being needed, which means I have to keep doing for other people. But when my identity is not rooted in me being needed, but it is established in who God says that I am, and he says that I'm a son and I'm a daughter, then it won't be hard for me to say no when I need to say no, because I'm not trying to keep my identity intact because it's already intact.
Right. And that could be possibly because of that boundary that you just spoke of.
Boundaries, and then all the trauma we got that's messing with how we see ourselves.
Right. What made you And I understand the call of God and everything, but what made you more interested in the psychology of the nature of God and people?
You know, like you said, everything starts with the call, right? So I always knew growing up, like I was that person that people would talk to even when I was a kid. Like, why y'all talking to me? And
Right. Leave me alone. Don't touch me.
and so as I got older, what happened was, you know, I took what my natural gifts were and I discovered, you know, through exploration and curiosity of education, what would allow that gift to flourish, right? And I, you know, consulted God to obviously make sure that it all aligned, because there's so many different ways, right? When it comes to purpose, we get stuck in like more of the assignment instead of thinking about purpose being overarching, right? Like purpose is about a theme. It's my why, but the assignment is how I do it, right? And so in terms of my purpose, I understood that therapy was the way in which God wanted me to carry out my purpose. And, you know, there's something about when you start doing something that you love, whether it's studying, whether it's, you know, doing an internship, whether it's just reading for fun or watching stuff for fun, you know, there's something that comes alive in you that becomes confirmation that you're in the right place. But what's funny is I started out in college as a psychology major. And I took psychology as a natural science, psychology as a social science, and I failed. Okay.
Really?
I mean, failed. I mean, first semester, fall semester, spring semester, one by one, failed both classes. And I was devastated because my belief or my idea was I want to be a therapist. I'm supposed to be a therapist. I have to be a psychology major, but I'm not doing well in these classes. Now, Lord, is this a sign? Like, do I need to be a lawyer? My dad was maybe I need to go start. And what happened was I realized that my learning style did not fit what was required of a psychology major, because it's much more science heavy, science oriented. And so what happened was God rerouted me and allowed me to take a different direction to still get to an end point that was already designed. And that's how I discovered social work. And I discovered human development. And so I went into human development, then I went to grad school for social work. But now it's become full circle, because now all of a sudden I'm much more into science and much more into the brain and neurology and why we do all the things that we do. And now I'm going back for a doctorate. Never would have thought that, right? But again, like all those life experiences got me to the place of knowing that this is what I was called to do.
Wow, that is amazing. And even the path that you took, you just didn't give up, you know, the whole I want to say psychiatry. Okay, break this down?
Okay. So psychiatrists, they prescribe medication.
Okay.
For mental illnesses, right? So you're diagnosed with schizophrenia, you're gonna likely be on some type of psychotropic medication. Okay. And so a psychiatrist, because they go to medical school and have to do residency, they can prescribe you. Psychologists, we do not prescribe medication.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. So you can diagnose, but you can't give medication. You can do assessments, you can do therapy, but you don't do the medical stuff of here, you're going to take this amount of milligrams of this medication and blah, blah, blah.
Do you see yourself going into that arena?
Now I will, in 5 years, I will, as long as we stay on track, I'll be a psychologist. Right now, I'm a licensed therapist. I have an LMSW.
Okay.
So there's so many ways that you can do therapy. Like, it doesn't have to just be, I'm a psychologist.
Yeah. So what do you got to say about people who are in ministry in church and they pretty much feel like they do what you do, but they don't have a degree for it? Look, y'all, hey, I got to ask. I'm asking for a friend. So, I mean, what do you say to those type of people? Do the church and by the way, you're the only really pastor or anyone like that who I have on the show, actually, because I've tried to separate the church thing from this right here, but God is teaching me to kind of blend them in together. Mm-hmm. So you're the first, but what do you got to say about that? Those who are pretty much me is the friend who does these things. And I'm not, do you think the church need to go and take some classes for psychology? Do we need to kind of understand the mind or the brain and all of that and how it works so we can better lead people? Or because, you know, church folk with the Baptist background or Pentecostal background, we say God gonna do it and, you know, just stop the sin. But sometimes it's not the sin. Sometimes it's, you know, maybe something chemically is out of balance or off track, which makes you to make those emotional turns in your life, you know? So what is your touch on that?
Yeah, so my pastor is actually a therapist, right? And so I have an example of
I know y'all got some healthy folk in y'all church. I mean, you a therapist, your pastor a therapist, and I mean, ain't no devils up in there. I know it ain't. I just know it ain't.
Listen, I have an example of somebody who's able to do both, right? But the average pastor does not have the professional capacity, the emotional capacity, the mental capacity, and the spiritual capacity to counsel people and to count. And so here's the thing with counsel, right? So counsel can show up as just, you know, I'm walking you through a situation, right? And I believe that pastors are capable of doing that. But there comes a point where there are certain situations and really certain histories that people are coming to you with, that's too much. Nor are you supposed to be doing that. As a pastor, it is not your responsibility to counsel people out of trauma and to get them into a healthy place. You're supposed to be shepherding their soul. At least that's my interpretation of the Bible, right? So you're supposed to be shepherding souls, right? And the thing is, when you're shepherding souls, you're shepherding a group of people. And depending on the amount of people that you're shepherding, it is going to increase the emotional, mental, and spiritual impact on you, right? Because if you're shepherding 1,000 people, then that's 1,000 people capacity that you have to be able to have. But even if you're shepherding 20 people, that's still 20 people that you have to have the capacity to shepherd. And it's not your responsibility to do it all. And I think that what's happened for a lot of Black and brown ministries is that we come as pastors or senior leaders, we have a do it all mentality. And that do it all mentality ends up destroying us because it was never God's intent for you to do it all. The only person who did it all was Jesus. Right? When you think about that fivefold representation, he embodied all five. Many of us we may have one or two, we may go in and out of different moments and exercising in a specific office, but we really are, what's in us is really usually about one or two, right? Why would you try and do the work of five? That's
so do you believe that believers should have all five in them and they work interchangeably in and out, or do you believe that you should just have one?
No, I think that it's impossible for you not to go in and out of them. But what I'm saying is, I'm really trying to pinpoint the fact that we're trying to try and do everything. It's too much. And to deal with people's histories, y'all. When people come to us, right, we make them leaders and they're leading, but they're leading with invisible baggage that you can't see. And it's determining how they lead. It's determining how they speak to people. It's determining how they communicate, how they're accountable, how they're responsible. It determines everything of how they function. How are you supposed to help people deal with how are you going to help 50 people, all 50 of your leaders deal with all of their histories, and also run the day-to-day, and also make sure that the finance team is doing it, and make sure, right? It's too much. And depending on the severity, we're not even adding to the fact that some people have, like you said, they have a genetic chemical imbalance that causes them to be the way that they are. And so there's no amount of talking that's going to be able to get them into a healthy place, because they need they need a kit almost, right? Their kit is, I need to go to therapy, but I also might need to take medication, but I also need to include these coping. So like there's things that I need to do that usually the average pastor doesn't know.
Right. I've seen,
and so we're trying to.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I've seen so many pastors who energy has been drained, mentally drained. End result, it ends up in suicide or some kind of hurt or harm to them spiritually, emotionally, or even mentally, because they're trying to do a job that God has not called them to do. Pastoring, like you were saying, pastoring means to guide. It doesn't mean that you're actually that therapist.
Yeah, God, give advice, like short term.
God have mercy.
You got people coming to you for short-term stuff that's really long-term. Or here's the thing, we trying to cast out devils and wonder why nothing seems to be changing. And it's because, all right.
You say that, say that. Because you already know how I am. I would say it. Say that.
Everything can't be cast out.
Mm-hmm.
Some things have to be talked out.
Yeah.
Because when we're dealing with people's mindsets and behaviors, those are learned things that have likely been in place for years. Mm-hmm. And so even not saying it's not possible, right? God is able. You could have a moment and, you pinpoint the spirit, it comes out and you're good to go, right? Mm-hmm. But then that would forfeit the person of really being able to have a change that's long lasting, because they won't know that, okay, when this thing came out, that was the thing that was actually impacting why I saw myself like this, or why I respond to things like this, or why I feel pain like this, or why I'm triggered like this, or why I just can't seem to handle pressure, right? So the reason why certain things have to be talked out, right, with therapy for me is a form of deliverance, is because in therapy, you can get understanding of why you are the way you are, and then get skills on how to become the person that you want to be, so that you can move from toxicity into a place of wholeness. Nobody just usually doesn't wake up and go, I've hated myself for 20 years, but after today, I just all of a sudden love myself.
Right.
And now I have all the skills that I need to talk to myself well, and to do good things for me, and to do self-care. No, that has to be taught. You have to unlearn.
Yeah.
Just like when you go from church, that's okay, pastor. All my pastors, come in, pastors, right? When a person comes to your ministry and they left another ministry, usually sometimes you require a letter from that previous pastor, or if a letter can't be provided, though, you still want to know about that person, where they came from. Why? Because where they came from is going to determine what they're coming into your ministry with, so that you can figure out what needs to be unlearned, so they're not bringing in past learned behavior into your culture and your environment that's going to impact everybody else. So that's why we got discipleship class, and that's why we got new members orientation, right? It's an opportunity to acclimate that new person to the culture and environment that they decided that they want to submit themselves to. Right? So in order for us to acclimate and adjust people from a place of dysfunction into a place of functionality, they have to go through an orientation called therapy, in which they unlearn the things that they have been doing.
God have mercy. And that is what my pastor, my bishop, who happens to be my spiritual father, was saying. Darren, when you're coming over, I may not need that here at this house.
I may not.
May not need a call for it. And so it calls for an unlearning, like you just said, to relearn. And that is hard for some people who have been doing things for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So now we have to unravel all of that stuff, and try to really put you directly into the right place, doing the right thing. And it's a lot.
That's a lot. I wouldn't want to do that if I was a pastor. That's too much. And so that's why this is why I believe, and I believe that this is not only what's needed in the church, but I know that it's part of my assignment, and that is to invade the church by bringing in our services to congregations so that the pastor doesn't have to do it all.
Yeah.
Right? Because, and here's the thing, we tend to operate from a surface level, right? We tend to operate from symptoms, right? You go to the doctor, I got a headache, I'm itching over here. And the doctor then goes ask you 12 million questions because they know that your headache is stemming from a root issue. So if I just deal with your headache, then you'll never get the help you need, right? So if you notice like this person, they're supposed to be over the youth, but they don't know how to talk to nobody, and the parents don't want to bring, now the parents don't want to bring their kids, and now the young adults don't want to be bothered. And if and then you have a meeting, I need you to talk differently. I need you to respond better. I need you to do this. And they're like, okay. And then they leave, and then they keep doing it. And then you gotta have another meeting. I need you to, can you just, you come across me, or you come across this, right? And those are what you're dealing with, is all the symptom stuff. What they don't know and you don't know is that they're that way for a reason, right? And so I believe, and I don't believe, what I'm literally going to be spending the next 6 months to a year is invade, and not invading, because that sounds like I'm gonna like make people receive me, but begin to merge with senior leaders to help them carry the load, right? To provide, I have a class that can be for lay members, but I can also provide the counseling to the senior leaders, right? So that the things that we need to see change actually get dealt with from the root, and then we can actually see the change we want to see, so that we don't have second-tier leaders bleeding all over the congregation.
I hope a pastor is watching this. I hope a leader, if you're leading over anything, is watching this right here, because this is the key element. And I said this on the last show, Banks, that the Bible said, Proverbs 24, the Message Bible, I went over, it says strategic planning is the key to warfare.
Oh yeah.
And it said, in order to win, you must have good counsel. So I feel like that is so befitting for this moment, that those who are watching, they're trying to grow their ministries, they're trying to grow what God put in them, and they see this vision, but it's not equaling up with reality. Like, what is
happening? You got to grow the people.
Oh, Jesus. I love you. I love you. You are so awesome, because people don't understand. They don't understand the what's the word I'm looking for? It's like the behind the scenes, the stuff behind the scenes that you got to know in order to lead effectively.
Yeah.
And even I just picked up some nuggets just by listening to you like that. I mean, so in your church, like, are you like your pastor's right hand man? Because dog want it. No,
I function in a whole different capacity. There, like I'm the youth leader, I'm the worship leader, I'm an adjutant, I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah, I get it.
So, but my pastor provides free counseling to members.
Wow. So that's something that you feel like the church should.
I believe that the church needs, right? But here's the thing, most churches aren't equipped with a pastor who went to school for marriage and family counseling, right? So why not contract a therapist to come in and provide services for you? Why not invest in somebody else, right? Now, I know we always running the numbers, we're trying to crunch numbers, we're trying to do all this and that, right. But you investing in a mental health provider, not only will it take a load off of you, but it's going to serve your people, so that then you have people that can carry out the vision that you have. So in the long run, what you're paying for really doesn't even add up to all that you're going to get.
Because you're going to get more. You're going to
get more, because now you're because here's the thing, even you as a pastor can be in a place mentally where you can think, you can see, right? We have pastors who are so burdened and fatigued and weary and can't hear God because of it. Right. Or can't, I've heard you, but I can't figure out the instructions, or I can't implement, I can't do this, I just don't have the energy, and blah, 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 blah. So what you're doing is freeing yourself up to get, because even as a pastor, you need skills on how to manage stress, your own stress. You need
Now, let me ask you this. Sorry, I just popped up in my Holy Ghost. What do you say to pastors who are so prideful? They are so prideful that the help is here, but because whether so they are ashamed or whether so they are just not receptive, or they think that the way that they've been doing things is right and something is wrong with the people.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to people, to pastors or leaders like that? Because even outside of the church, you have leaders that are just prideful. They just,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
what kind of damage is being done? I'm sorry.
Well, right. So here's the thing. Pride limits your capacity to grow, because your pride is not going to allow you to receive help for expansion to occur. So when you operate from a place of pride, what you're doing is saying, I'm okay with staying in the box. Or I'm okay with staying in this lane. I'm okay with restrictions being placed on me, with harnesses being placed on me. I'm okay with not growing. I'm okay with not seeing increase. I'm okay with not seeing expansion, because in order for you to see expansion and see increase, it's going to require relationship, because nothing that's done in kingdom, or nothing that's done even outside of the kingdom, can be done by one person.
Right.
The world was literally set up on a foundation of relationship and community and connectivity, right? So your pride is causing you to come into a place of dependence on yourself, and you don't have all the answers.
You do not have all.
So you're putting a cap on your vision. But then if you're a believer, you quote, and God will do exceedingly and abundantly and far above what I could even ask or what think or imagine. Hallelujah. Right? But if you're operating from pride, your exceedingly and abundantly is going to be as much as your pride allows.
Oh, Jesus.
So, and I understand, right? So here's the thing. Let me put my therapist hat back on. I understand, though, that the reason why you may be dealing with pride is because you were abandoned. And so now you have trust issues, and it's hard for you to depend on other people, because it's just easier for you to do it yourself, because every time you've relied on people to do things, they did not follow through. And so now you live a life of solitude. Now you live in a place of isolation. So that's the reason why really pride is existing. So we got to deal with the abandonment,
which caused them to go back to confront some things that has not been confronted, whether if it was childhood.
That's right.
If it was,
doesn't matter. It could be a bad marriage. It doesn't matter what it is. But now we go back, as painful as it is, we confront it. But now that I've confronted it, now I can make a decision to begin to change and to learn to trust again, so that I can be connected to the people that I need, so that I can see what I'm carrying, what I'm holding, what I'm growing, actually be expanded. And actually grow up to be an adult child, right? Like I want to just birth a baby business or birth a baby ministry or birth a baby, but like I want it to, after it's birthed, I want it to grow up. Right. I want it to mature. I want it to develop.
Yeah, I don't want no retarded child. No offense to anybody.
No, yeah. No, right. But I mean, in the root word of the sense, something that's slow, right? And so so you can't do that on yourself. That's why, therapists have to go to therapy. Nobody's exempt, as far as I'm concerned, of needing counseling. Yeah. Therapists need counselors, senior leaders need counselors, CEOs need counselors, entrepreneurs need counselors, teachers need counselors, lawyers need counselors. The President of the United States needs a counselor. And if you're watching, President of the United States, the White House want to put somebody on staff.
Speak it, because God knows. Look, and while y'all get her, you looking at her on this show, so just take the show right along with you. Amen. In Jesus' name.
But yeah, so it all.
You're needed. People like you are needed.
Yeah. And there's so many more of us now, right? Like the pandemic created a space where people now can't even deny it, right? Where it's like everybody is either going or now thinking at least about going, or now more desensitized to the idea of going, like, so I think more people are on the trajectory of actually being able to get help in that space. Just as much as you go to church, now you can actually get help and stop putting so much burden on your pastor to figure stuff out, y'all. They don't know.
They don't.
And they tired too.
Yeah.
And they hurt too.
Just like I was just like my leader, I was speaking with him earlier today, sent him a text message, because a lot of times pastors are there for everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
And then, especially if you have a big ministry, it's like everybody wants the pastor to be right there. Like, how is he going to go to 1,200, 2,000 of y'all houses at the same time? You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, man, like, you can feel, and what I can sense, and I can feel the burden that's on my leader. And it's like, I'm not going to be on your team and add more burden, you know what I'm saying, to you. So what is it that I can do to be able to help take that load off?
Yeah.
Whether if it's just understanding, or whether if it's feeling that same pain that you feel. Okay, I'm praying that God gives you a mental capacity to travel through this, or to maneuver through this. I understand the stress. I understand it. And it's a lot. It's big. It is big. But I think pastors need people with them that are on their team that can discern where they are. You feel what I'm saying? And especially if we want to go into the church world about this whole spiritual father and mother thing, it's not so much as the son or the daughter always getting from them, but it got to be in the reverse as well. You got to know how to pour into your leader as well. And I believe that helps a lot with the mental capacity of them just feeling like they can make it. They can take that next step. And then when you have somebody like yourself, somebody who actually studies the mind, studies the brain, my God, your pastor ought to be doggone on top of the world. Like, bro, to know that he has somebody in his congregation, you know what I'm saying? And my pastor too, he has lots of people, but I'm just saying at church at large, they don't have that. They don't have that. I know ministries that do not have that. And it just pulled on my heart, the strings of my heart, because, you want the church to succeed at large, but they don't understand, and it's ignorance because they don't know. Nobody taught them. All they was taught was Jesus is going to do it and laid my hands on you.
Wow. Just not.
You shouldn't have to wait till you broken down to do it.
And not the way you want it to have. You just want him to just come and touch you. And he's like, oh, no, this is going to require work and effort.
Yeah, a little effort.
You know what I mean? And so, like, what you feel for one pastor is what I feel for pastors at large. Wow. Right? Like the burden, right? That's why that's one way to know, like, when you're called to something is when you feel the totality of the burden, right? And that is why I'm going to be focusing a lot of my energy, I used to see one-on-one clients, just anybody, but I'm really shifting and really only making my one-on-one clients leaders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, pastors, whatever title that you have, because again, you need a safe place to land.
Yeah,
you do. And the reality is everybody can't handle you telling them, right? Like most leaders, what they need for their second tier leaders are to be discerning enough to at least pray. But most second tier leaders cannot handle what a pastor would actually say about how they feel. Mm-hmm. And most leaders don't trust their second tier leaders to be able to see them in that light. Mm-hmm. Which is why you need a safe place to land that's outside of these people. You don't got to worry about, them being like, well, pastor's going through this and he can't handle it. So he, or she can't handle it, whatever it is. You need to have a safe place to land that's outside of the people that you're called to, so that you also get to experience what it's like to be covered. Yeah. Because therapy is also a form of covering.
Yeah. God, I thank you for this. I feel like, man, like I said before, the church at large will be more successful and more effective if we have people who study the mind. Now, My question to you, and I'm gonna wrap this up because I feel we can go on, and I know it's gonna touch somebody's life. I really do, and I know it's gonna give an idea to a pastor to even reach out. Y'all reach out to her. You know, she has the services, and you can kind of feel what I feel on this right here, that she has the capabilities and she has the record of showing, you know, pastors who she's helped, leaders who she's helped. Reach out to her if this is what you need. But my last question to you in regards to therapy in the church at large, do you feel that pastors should get help from therapists that are in their congregation, or do you feel it should be someone who they don't know?
I would say that the pastor, well, okay, so here's the thing. Therapists are we are obligated to HIPAA laws, right? So confidentiality, we have ethical laws depending on whether you're a social worker, psychologist, or mental health counselor. There are ethics that are attached to each of those different titles in their professions. So ideally, that therapist would be able to maintain confidentiality. However, I don't like mixing business, personal life, and all of that, because while yes, we are held to ethics, we're still human, right?
Right.
And you want to be as comfortable as possible in your congregation, and you don't want to feel like there's that one person that just knows all this stuff. Right. You don't want to feel like around them you can't be comfortable, and you don't want that person to even feel the same thing, that like they can't come to you because they technically know this and they don't want to be a break, right? You know, you just don't want to have any of that potential murkiness in a relationship. And so I do suggest that pastors seeing somebody outside of their congregations. It doesn't have to be maybe necessarily somebody that they don't know, because I know my pastor gets people all the time that she knows of who come to her, especially for grief counseling, because that's what she specializes in, and she sees them, right? But she's not going to come to me for therapy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there needs to be boundaries, y'all. This is why boundaries are so important.
So the help ain't in your house, because we got this thing. The help is in the house.
The help might be in the house, but maybe the help is in the house.
The help, though.
Maybe not for you. Maybe, you know, maybe because maybe you have a couple of therapists, and maybe you want to do like, if you know, some churches want to create like a crisis counseling hotline. You have therapists in your church that may be able to put that together for you, right? So that people can make anonymous calls, or people, you know, some bigger churches have counseling centers and people make appointments and they're on staff. That's different.
Right.
That's a peer thing, right? And like, but in terms of the senior leader,
right.
Or senior leaders, you know, it doesn't have to be senior pastor, assistant pastor, whatever. I would suggest, for everybody's comfort and convenience, that that person isn't within your congregation.
I want you to give us your plugs. I want you to give us everything where people can come to look you up, not only look you up, but actually request your services, so that we can continue to further the kingdom of God. The thing I love about it is everybody have their own thing. They have their own gift, skill, ability, and calling. And I believe that all bodies, you know, put together, you know, we can push the kingdom of God together. So where can they go? Your website, your social media plugs, all of that information.
Sure. So those of you that are interested in working directly with me, so that's somebody that may be a senior leader, pastor, business owner, entrepreneur, you can email me at taylormadem@outlook.com. Okay, taylormadem@outlook.com. And you can just shoot me an email saying, hey, saw the interview, I'm interested in doing a consultation. If you are a senior pastor that's looking to provide services to your church, I have a class called Roots. Okay, I have a class called Roots that focuses on destroying the spirits of shame, rejection, and abandonment through a therapeutic and biblical method. It's a method that I created, and I believe that really what's at the root of most of our issues are those big three. And so what the class is almost like a group group therapy class, right? And so I'm actually going to now, I've done the class I've run the class 3 or 4 times now, but now I'm going to start providing these to churches who want to bring me in to do the class, whether it's with your leaders, or maybe you just want to offer it to the congregation, and the congregation, you know, any member can sign up to take the class. It's a 5-week course. So that's basically 1 month. The classes are about an hour a week. You know, there's homework, there's accountability, there's all of that. And then again, that allows you to take the pressure off of yourself for trying to do something that you can't. But it also benefits you because the ministry gets to grow when the people grow. So if you're interested in that class, you can also email me, taylormadem@outlook.com, and let me know, hey, I saw you, that Roots class sounds like something interesting that I want my leaders to take. And we'll go from there and, you know, talk about all the details of what it would take depending on your group size. So I can't give like somebody sitting there going, well, how much is it? Well, it's going to be different if you got 5 people and you got 50 people. So that's why you got to email me so we can talk and figure out, you know, the needs of your ministry.
And know you're going to have to invest in it. And people need to understand, right, you're going to have to invest in it. Stop wanting everything for free. It don't work like that, because she got bills she got to pay too. I mean, if you want to go that route. I mean, because the pastors will try to coerce you. Have you ever had leaders, spiritual leaders, try to coerce you into giving a discount?
No, thank God.
Well, praise God, but we ain't gonna start it. Don't look.
Yes, it is an investment. It is absolutely an investment. But again, we have to change our mindset about what that investment, what it means, right? It's helping you, and it's helping the people, and then ultimately it's helping the vision. And that is what we want, right? You are a pastor, so of course you're concerned about how everybody's doing. Right. And you're just staying up late at night. You're stressing about how people are doing. You know, people are hurting. You know, people got issues. Right. And so this is literally an answer for you to be able to do what you wish that you could do for all of them. So yeah, send me an email and we'll go from there. And so you can follow me on social media on Instagram at TaylorMadeM, on Facebook at Taylor Banks, and then my website is www.taylormadem.com. But the email is just email me directly, y'all, because then I can make sure that, because listen, that website, sometimes my messages are going to these secret. I'm like, why is it not forwarding again? So I just want to make sure that none of you guys get lost in the sauce. So email me directly. If you want to go on my website to just kind of see what's there, you can. I think it's up to date with talking about the class for churches and all of that. So there should be some descriptions there. And you can even, I think, I'm pretty sure the link is working for consultations if you want to just sign up for consultations. But email me directly and I promise you will be taken care of immediately.
Man, thank you so much, Taylor Banks, for coming on. I feel like I want to say Tyra Banks. That's what I was.
My mother's name is Tyra Banks, so you
really? Tell her I said, hey. Yeah, I thank you so much for just saying yes and being open in your busy schedule. And I know you're all over the place, and you don't know me from a can of paint. But I thank you so much.
I thank you for the invitation. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, and I'm telling y'all, she's a powerhouse. She didn't say much on that on the panel, but like I said, you can discern who has what. And as you saw today, you know, she has a gift that is like second to none. Like I will consider you to be a guru in regards to the mind. And I just pray God's blessings on you. I pray that God would do exceeding abundantly above all that you could ever ask or think. You're the boss. People like you, I'm telling you, you're needed. You're definitely needed. I would like for you to stay on just for a few moments. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Join us next Friday. I'm telling you guys, we are picked up. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep drilling. We're going to keep pushing and getting you together for your future, where we are here to encourage, empower, and help evolve you to the next level of your life. Take care. Peace.
Bye.